ッテリーがなくならないようになる。
おー、それなんですね。腹立つ。
これさっきダウンロード中って言わなかった？
いや、言ってたと思うんですけど、ね。
言ってたでしょ？
うん。
なんでどっか行っちゃったの？ビデオ付きっていうのは録画じゃないの？
違うんです。
違うの？
違う。だからこのようなものが出てこないとかなんでもいいな。
ああ、そうよね、これ。
うん。まあ、いいです。
でもこれ、ズームから起こしてるんだよ。アレクがやってたところを。
そうなんやけれど、何も押すところないでしょ。だから、わけわからん。これ、これで言ってましたね。OK。わからない。ね
え、ありがとう。それで録画をしとく。
あ、それでできるわ。
どれに録画して。
これ。
なんか、講師なの。
はい。ちょっと待ってください。何で入ったかというとです。出てこないんだね、これ。
私もね。
うん。なんでなんで
参加しとるよ。
なんで
今これで録画して。
いや、だから。
あかんの？
うん。だから、はい、今入ってきた。マイク、切ってるんですね。あれちょっと。いや、なしにしましょう。ややこしい。Alright. It's 1 o'clock. これ消してもらいます。
消した方がいいの？
One of those days.
今度までにズームを入れときゃいいね。
そうですね。Okay. Not counting us, I'll just see how many people we've got. We've got lots of people here. Probably it's going to be a few more. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So good afternoon, at least as in Japan. I'm assuming some of you are up very early in the morning and some of you are probably up quite late in the evening. But that's the nature of these kind of events. This is the first time that we have done such an event for the International Naginata Federation. Just to give you a brief introduction of what we're going to be doing, I've made a slight change in plan. We're not going to do a lecture today. Okay, we're going to go straight into the practical side of things with Kimura Sensei and her assistants. But we're going to do this 3 times. Okay, today's the first one, and we're just doing very, very basic stuff. Chakuso, Reigi Saho, Bogu, how to put it on, etc., etc. The next one that we do, and I'll put this up on Facebook as well. The next one session will be on October the 11th. ですよね。はい、October the 11th at 10 a.m. Japan time. Yeah, forget the time. I'm getting it from all over the place at the moment. So the next one, number 2, will be on the 11th of October. It will be Shikake Oji. Okay. Right. And on the third one will be on the 15th of November. And that will be kata. Okay, so we sort of divided it up into easy to follow sort of format that we can dedicate enough time to each one rather than trying to rush through it. Okay, and I'll choose one of those days to do a lecture as well if you're interested, but I won't do that today. So before we start properly, I just have a message from Hashimoto Sensei, the president of the International Naginata Federation, which I'm going to try and show you now. Bear with me. I should be really good at this Zoom thing by now, but still having problems. Hang on a bit, where's my share? Here we go. All right. Okay, so this is Hashimoto Sensei. No, it's not. Hang on a minute, guys, sorry. Okay, what I'm going to do, because it's trying to do strange things, stop sharing. I'm just going to show you on my phone. How's that? Okay.
皆様こんにちは。今年は思いがけないコロナウイルスのためにセミナーももちろん理事会もできなくて、こういう形のセミナーになりましたが、このセミナーを通して皆様がまたなぎなたのことを一生懸命頑張ってくださることを期待しております。どうぞ皆さんお元気でお過ごしくださいませ。
Okay, so what Hashimoto Kaicho said was, unfortunately, as the world is engulfed in this corona or COVID-19 pandemic, we're unable to conduct our usual activities. Normally, we would have an annual seminar overseas, but we can't do that. But nevertheless, make the most of the situation that we find ourselves in and hope that you get something out of these online trainings. And wish you all the best of luck and look forward to the day when we can actually get to see each other again. So that was Hashimoto Sensei. Now I'm going to introduce Kimura Yasuko Sensei, who really doesn't need any introduction. And she's going to be taking you from now through some very basic lessons. Now, I must warn everybody, although my computer is plugged in, it seems that it is not charging, which is why I decided not to do the lecture today. If the battery goes dead and we cut out, we have another computer here which we're going to get set up. Okay, so if we cut out halfway through, bear with us and we'll be back online as soon as we can. We should be okay, I think, but just in case. All right. So now I would like to call upon Kimura Sensei. どうぞお願いします。
こんにちは。
G'day.
今年は、セミナーをこの兵庫県伊丹市にある修部館で行います。
So today's seminar, we are conducting it in this dojo, which is known as the Shubukan, which is in Itami City in Hyogo Prefecture. I think many of you have probably been here before.
今日は、門間さんと清水さんにアシスタントお願いして行います。
So we've asked Kadoma-san and Kiyomizu-san, the two ladies to Kimura Sensei's left, to assist us with the as models today.
皆さんご自分たちのところでも Zoom の、レッスンを行っていらっしゃると思いますが、今日は、基本について、細かく説明をしていきたいと思います。
I understand that many of you around the world are already conducting lessons via Zoom, so it's not new to you. What we're going to do today is really get into the nuts and bolts, the fine points of Kihon.
よろしくお願いします。
So let's try our best.
今、私たちが行っていますナギナタは、この竹でできている、試合用というか演技用のナギナタと、この全部カシの木でできている、演技、全日本の型用のナギナタの2種類があります。
So as you know, we have two types of naginata that we utilize in our training. One is the Shiai Naginata, which is a wooden shaft with a bamboo blade. And of course, we have the Zen Nihon Kata, which is made out of oak.
で今日はこちらの試合用のナイナタを使いますので、その名称について説明をさせていただきます。
So we're only going to use the Shiai Yo Naginata today. So we'll just start by a review. I mean, everybody knows this stuff, but we're just going to go over it again just to refresh your memories of what the parts are.
ここがハブですよね。で、ここにタンポがついて、切っ先からハブの刃、峰がこの横にあるしのぎで、切っ先から15から20センチの5センチの部分の物打ちから、ここが先端巻きで、少しカーブをしているところに反りがあります。
Okay, so the section, of course, is the blade or the habu, which you have on the end, a little tampo, which represents the kisaki, the tip. Okay, you have the sendamaki down here. On the side is called the shinogi. The top is called the mine. And about this far down from the kisaki, this area here, is the monouchi. So this is the blade.
で、ここがごめんなさい。エブで、と石突きですね。で、重さが650グラム以上、長さが2メーター10から25ということになっています。
So the air, of course, the weight must be over 650 grams, and the length
210から20
from 210 centimeters to 220 centimeters, so 2.1 to 2.2 meters.
で、このナイナタは、このタンポを、この黄色い紐をつると言いますが、これで、止めてあります。
And you'll see on the ends, there's a little yellow string, okay, which is called the tsuru. Okay, and the tsuru is what keeps it in its place.
で、打突するときに、ここが面金と擦れると、このつるが切れやすくなります。そのために、このビニールテープで、このつるの補強をしています。
And you'll also notice wrapped over the tsuru is some tape. You might be able to see it glistening there. And the reason why they have that on there is because when you strike man, sometimes the tsuru will clash with the mangane and it will wear through or break. So we put the tape over that to add an extra layer of protection.
で、これはこのタンポと竹の葉の部分を止めてるんではなくて、このつるの補強でしているということをよく理解しておいてください。
So the point that I want to make here is we don't put the tape on the kisaki and the bamboo for the purpose of taping the tampo down. The purpose for the tape is to protect the tsuru.
これが飛んでしまうと、この竹の葉はこう開いてしまいます。そうすると、面金から中へ入って顔を傷つけますので、ここはいつも稽古の最初と最後に点検するのを忘れないようにしてください。
So if this tsuru was to break, the tampo would go flying, which means that the two slats of the ha would be exposed and possibly could go into the mangane and injure your partner, which of course we do not want. So it's very important part of your naginata practice to make sure that the tsuru is always in good condition at the end of training. You must check this.
で、この刃の部分は竹でできているので、ささくれたり割れたり欠けたりしますので、ここもいつも注意をしましょう。
Also, please take care of, well, to make sure that you look and check the condition of the ha. Of course, it's made from bamboo, so it is prone to splintering and sometimes can split. So again, for safety reasons, make sure that you check that it is in good condition, usable condition.
で、先端巻きは白いテープで、17センチ、合わさりが15センチで、テープは17センチ。これをしっかり守ってください。スケールで大会の折にはチェックします。
Okay, and the sendan maki white insulation tape is 17 centimeters. So the actual connection of the blade over the air makes a 15 centimeters, and there's an extra 1 centimeter on each side, which holds it all in place.
で、今度絵についている石突きの担保も同じくですね。この担保が飛んでいくと危ないので、絵と担保をこのビニールテープで補強しています。
Right. And of course, on the Ishizuki side, we also have another tampo, okay, which is secured with tape, again to prevent it from falling off and making or exposing a dangerous part of the naginata.
このなぎなたの絵、それからさっきお見せしました型のなぎなたもカシの木でできています。で、やはり今乾燥が甘いので、すぐ曲がりやすくなっていますので、保存するというか使わないときに平らなところに置くようにしてください。
So the air for the Shiai Naginata and also for the Zen Nihon kata is made out of oak. Usually oak. Depending on the humidity of the environment that you are in, when it dries out, it warps very easily. Okay, especially the stuff that you buy these days. So when you're not using it, please be sure to store it in a place that is flat. Okay, not hanging it up or leaning it on something because it will gradually bend out of shape. So keep it in a place where it's going to retain its shape, its form.
で、お稽古で使った後は、今きっとコロナで皆さん、用具はきれいに拭いてしまってられると思いますが、これからもずっとこの用具を拭くという習慣をつけてください。で、時々、椿油とかアマニ油をちょっとつけて、置いておくと、なぎなた自体の目が詰まってきて、曲がりにくくもなりますし、いいなぎなたになっていきます。
Okay, perhaps many of you have never done this before or never been told to do it, but now with COVID, people are taking a lot more care about hygiene, of course, and perhaps you are after each training, you are wiping your naginata down to sterilize it. That's a good practice to get into anyway, and will ensure that your naginata lasts longer and gets into an even better condition. So after training, every training, make sure you clean it, wipe it down, and sometimes perhaps add a layer of oil or something just as a coat of protection. And you'll find that it will, by doing this, looking after your naginata like this, will allow it to last a lot longer as well.
で、なぎなたを持ち運ぶときはいつも袋に入れてください。裸のまんま持って歩かないようにしましょう。
And when you are transporting your naginata, be sure to put it in a bag. Don't carry your naginata around naked, was the word that Sensei used. That's the naginata being naked, not you, of course. Okay, but put it in a bag.
それではこれからなぎなたの構えから入っていきます。
So now we're going to get into the practical
まず
side.
受け渡しをします。
Before we do that, one more thing. How do you hand the naginata over? How do you pass it?
こちらが選手で、なぎなたの自分のなぎなたが折れてしまったので、監督が受け渡しをします。
Just say Kiyomizu-san is a player, and in the shiai, her naginata broke, so the kantoku is handing her another naginata. This is how you would do it.
でもしかこれが折れたなぎなたとしたら、選手が監督に折れたなぎなたを渡します。
Or if the player is handing the broken naginata to the kantoku. This is how you do it.
このように、きれいに受け渡しをしてください。
Okay, so again, it's a simple thing, passing the naginata over, but make sure you do it properly.
ではこれから、構えについて行います。まず、礼法、はい、礼法をします。はい、礼。正面の礼を行います。これは相手に対して、深くお辞儀をします。はい、礼。今度はお互い選手同士の礼をします。はい、礼。
This is bowing to each other.
もう一度最初の深い正面に礼。
To the shoreman, it's deeper.
15度ですね。はい。
15 degrees.
今度はお互いには目と目を見合ってお辞儀をします。
And when you bow to each other, keep eye contact. And it's a little bit shallower than the re to the shoreman.
で今行っているのはこれ自然体です。左手や右手で腰のところに手を添えて、ちょうど自分の小指の先に石突きが落ちています。でなぎなたはまっすぐ、歯が前に向いています。
So this is Shizentai position, the natural standing position, with the naginata straight and the blade facing forward.
中段に構え。下段に構え。八層に構え。上段に構え。脇に構え。中段に構え。中段は一番基本の構えです。自分を守って相手を攻めていないといけません。
Of course, Chudan is the most fundamental of the kamai. It provides you with protection, but at the same time, is a platform for assailing or attacking your opponent.
中段から下段の構えに行くところですが、体から離さないように自分の隙を作らないようにします。はい、下段に構え。
So when you go from Chudan to Gedan, keep the naginata close to your body so that there are no openings.
今日は全部中段から構えを持ち替えてもらっています。
So all of the kamai are going to be from Chudan today.
体から離さないというところをよく見てください。
Again, emphasize the point, when you go into a kamai, the naginata does not leave the body.
八層に構え。これは一番攻撃的な構えで、よく皆さんが間違うというか、良くない構えとしては、歯が前を向かない、横を向いてしまうということがよくあります。気をつけてください。
So hasso no kamai is an aggressive kamai or stance, but a common mistake that people often have is when they go into the kamai, the blade is facing out to the side instead of facing towards your opponent.
上段に構え。これは威圧的な構えですので、しっかり自分のを守りながら、普通で言えばどうもすねもみんな空いている構えですが、この威圧的な構えで自分の強さを示しています。
So Jordan, again, is another aggressive kamai, but in this case, you're leaving yourself completely open, your lower body and your torso. So you take this kamai when you have to be very confident to be able to pull this off. And so you cannot let your guard down at all. This is a very dangerous kamai.
脇に構え。これも石突きで自分を守っています。
So with waki, you are protecting yourself, keeping your center guarded with the ishizuki.
以上で構えの紹介は終わりますが、構えは自分を守り、相手を責めていないといけないということをしっかり忘れないで構えてください。
So they're the 5 kamae that we use in Naginata. In all cases, the point is not just the form, but also the feeling of one, making sure that you are not exposing any openings. Okay, so you're protecting yourself, but at the same time, you are always ready to launch into an attack as well.
で、足なんですが、前に出る足、今の場合は左足ですが、つま先がしっかり岸先の方向を向けてください。
If you look at the feet in Chudan at the moment, the front foot is pointing generally in the same direction as the kisaki.
で、かかととかかとが同じ直線上にあるようにします。
The heels of both feet are in the same line. Okay, so they're not staggered.
これから体さばきをします。はい、送り足の前、あと、歩み足、前、歩み足、あと、開き足、右に開け、左に開け、右に開け、左に開け。今度は次足をします。正面を打って戻ります。面を打って、で次足で戻ります。はい、面を打って、今度踏み替え足をします。側面を打ちながら踏み替え足をしてください。はい、側面を打って、同じ位置で右足があったところ、左足があったところを右足に行きます。
Okay, sufumikai ashi. So staying on the same spot, but swapping the direction of the feet as you strike.
側面を打て。はい、すねを打て。すねを打て。はい、中段。
いや、もう大丈夫です。強いことないです。
はい、体さばきを行いました。今度は打突をします。はい、打突として、はい、面を打て。で、次足で戻ってください。はい、面を打て。今度、はい、もう一本。面を打て。側面を打て。側面を打て。すねを打て。すねを打て。胴を打て。胴を打て。小手を打て。小手を打て。インコをつけ。インコをつけ。振り込んでインコをつけ。振り込んでインコをつけ。とても綺麗な打突ですよね。これは体から離れていないし、持ち替えをするときも、体に沿って持ち替えてるし、足さばきが、右行ったり左行ったりしていないので、とても綺麗な打突になっています。
So this is a very good example of correct striking method. The naginata remains very close to the body, regardless of what side it's is being used to strike. The footwork is precise and compact, and always ends up in the same position and very stable.
今度は、振りを行います。
So now we'll do furi or the swings.
はい、上下振り、始め。まっすぐ振り上げて、まっすぐ振り下ろします。
Straight up and straight down.
斜め振り。45度上から下に入ります。
45 degrees from top to bottom.
横振り。真横に振ります。
Okay, perfectly level.
斜め振り下から。45度下から上へ上がります。
Again, 45 degrees from bottom to top.
繰り返し。これはナギナタ独特の振り方です。
Okay, this is one of the characteristic moves of Naginata.
じゃあ、八方振りを16個間で行ってください。はい、始め。
Please try this at home.
斜めからきれいに入っていってます。この八方振りでナギナタの操作の勉強をしていきます。
Okay, so Happopuri, we're getting used to the body movement, how to use the Naginata, throwing it in and out, and the various angles. So this is just an exercise to calibrate your body with the Naginata.
振りは打突ではないので、しっかり大きく振りましょう。
So this is not datotsu. This is not striking. This is furi, which is swinging. So the point is to make it as big and flowing, a flowing movement.
I
think it was a good demonstration.
はい、流れ。で、じゃあ、服装についてちょっとお話しします。
Okay, we're going to look at the fukuso, the way that you wear your training gear now.
ナギナタは白の稽古着に黒か紺の袴と決まっています。
So, in Naginata, we wear a white keikogi with a black or dark blue-ish colored hakama.
で、馬乗り袴といって、後ろに腰板があり、それから足がちょうどキュロットみたいになって、両方に入るようになっています。
So the hakama, this particular model has what is called a koshi ita or a backboard. And these were the traditional kinds of hakama that were used in horse riding. So they're also split, opens up on each leg.
まあ、太ってる、痩せてるで、この間の幅が広くなったり、細くなったりはしますが、あんまりこう、ぶわーっとこう、広がってしまわないような、自分のサイズに合った袴をつけましょう。
Okay, so obviously it depends on your body size and shape, how much white is revealed out the side of the hakama, but if at all possible, please ensure that you get a naginata that fits you so that you don't end up with sides like this. Okay, it should be relatively defined rather than sort of really stretched out.
で、 今、私たちはこの腕にゴムが入っている稽古着をしていますが、ゴムが入っていなくてもいいんですが、ナギナタがこの中に入ってしまうということがありますので、あんまりここがブカブカであればゴムを入れる。もしくはゴムを入れないんであれば、このナギナタが入らないような細さのものにしてください。
So many of the Naginata gis that we use have elastic in the sleeve, and that is essentially to stop the naginata from accidentally getting caught up inside. You don't have to actually have elastic here. You can have a gi that doesn't have elastic, but in that case, please make sure that the sleeve is not too big, again, to stop the naginata from actually getting caught up. Okay, so if you don't have elastic, just make sure that the sleeves are quite, well, what's the word? Tight on your arm. Okay.
で、私たちは帯をしていますので、柔道のように稽古着の下に T シャツを着るということはしないで、しっかりきれいに身に沿って、つけてるはずです、稽古着を。
Okay, we have or should have an obi tying our gi or keeping our gi together under our hakama. Okay, and that's why in Naginata we don't wear t-shirts underneath our keikogi. Sometimes you'll see people who do judo who have a t-shirt underneath their gi, but in Naginata we don't, and that's the purpose of the obi.
なかなか自分の稽古着が手に入らない方もあるかもしれませんが、きっちり胸も合わさり、身に沿ったナギナタの稽古着を着るようにしてください。
Okay, it might be difficult to, you can't just go down to the local supermarket and buy a keikogi, but even if you have limited options, it's really important that you get one that's the right size for you.
で、袴もちょうどくるぶしの丈の長さになるように、あんまり短いものじゃないようにしてください。
Okay, and Naginata, hakama as well. The length of the hakama should come down to just round about your ankles or just below your ankles. Okay, so it's if possible, please avoid having a naginata that a hakama that is too short. Okay, it should be relatively long, like as you can see here.
で、ここ腰板ですよね。で、袴腰っていうのがあるんですが、姿勢が良くて、腰板と背中がピタッとつくと、そのことを袴腰っていうんですが、武道をするときにはいつも姿勢のいい、習慣がつきますので、普段から素晴らしい、素敵な、すっきりした、スタイルになります。
There's a word sometimes that you hear in the dojo called hakamagoshi, okay, which means the hakama back. And what we're talking about here is we have the koshi ita, but if you have a good posture, a really good posture, then the koshi ita should sort of like blend into your back as a part of your posture and look very smart. Okay, so your appearance is really important. All these little attention to detail that should always be considered.
以上で稽古着袴の説明をしました。で、ここにひだが前に5本、後ろに2本あります。で、このひだもやはり5行の教えとか言われますように、この、すね当てをつけて汗をかいたりするとだんだん広がってきてしまって、ひだがなくなったりしますので、いつもこのひだが取れないように自分のお稽古の中で、注意していきましょう。
Okay, and it's a little bit hard to see. Well, it's hard to make out the pleats, but you have 5 pleats in the front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 pleats at the back. And these should always be straight and pronounced, very clear. When you put borgo on, especially you put your sune out there and you sweat, gradually these pleats will start to sort of disappear. So always make sure that you fold your hakama properly and make sure that the pleats are always visible.
やはりこの稽古着袴姿に憧れてナギナタがしたいという方も出てくるぐらいですので、やはり素敵に着こなしてください。
Okay, it's not a fashion contest, but it's got to look good. In fact, there are some people who start Naginata because they really like the look of, you know, the wear or the chapso that we have. And so taking pride in your appearance is an important part of your study in Naginata.
では以上で稽古着の説明は終わります。次今度防具の説明をします。
Okay, now we're going to have a look at bogu. Is the sound okay for everybody and the picture clear enough? Mark, can you hear me, Mark?
Alex, this is Eric. Yeah, everything's fine on that. The table shakes a little bit when you touch it, so yes, exactly.
I won't touch it. Thanks, mate.
And also, if there'll be opportunity for questions later on Tihon, that would be great. So.
はい。はい。
はい。今回は防具について試合の稽古はしませんが、防具についての説明をしていきたいと思います。まず最初につけるのがタレなので、タレの説明をします。
We're not going to do any Borgu keiko today, but I just want to explain the Borgu. It's just an opportunity to do some, just to refresh your memory. When we put our Borgu on, we start with the tare.
タレはこの前に3枚、後ろに2枚ついているのを私たちは使います。で、このタレの紐なんですが、皆さんもあんまり気にしませんが、この紐はなるべくくしゃくしゃにしないで、きれいに伸ばしてしまうようにしましょう。
Okay, so the tare that we use in Naginata has 3 panels in the front and 2 panels in the back. Something that a lot of people sort of neglect is the cord, the tare cord, which you wrap around your body. Every time you use it, make sure that you really flatten it out, okay, so it's not all scrunched up. People tend to sort of overlook this detail, but it's important to make sure that your tare cord is in good condition.
で、ここゼッケンをつけていますが、これはポケットではなくて、この中によくいろんなもの、たすきを入れたり、いろんなものを入れている方がありますが、ここへは物は入れないようにしましょう。
So this is the zekken. It is not a pocket. That's news to me. What Kibura Sensei means by that is that often people will use the zekken to put things in, like tasuki or, I don't know, eye scratches and back scratches and all sorts of things, right? So you should not put anything in the zekken.
はい。次は胴をいきます。胴は上に長い紐、下に短い紐がついていまして、ここの模様やこの胴の素材っていうのはそれぞれの趣味というか、お値段によっても違ったりしますが、これはまあ素敵なものをお好みに合わせてつけられたらいいと思いますが、ここのちゃんとサイズに合わないと、私もそうなんですが、サイズに合わないとこういうふうに逃げていってしまうので、しっかり自分に合ったサイズの胴をつけたいと思います。
So door is about the only thing in Naginata you get any freedom of choice. So you can choose an expensive door or a cheap door with, you know, various colors and so on. That's fine. But the important thing with door, regardless of what it looks like, is it's got to be the right size. If it's too big down the bottom, it's going to fly up. Okay, so make sure that the door that you're using fits you perfectly.
次につけるのが、スネア手ですね。
Next, we would put on the sunea.
スネア手は今、きれいに決まっているのは、この竹の部分が黒であるということです。
In the regulations now, it is stipulated that the slats of bamboo on the suneate must be black in color.
で、膝とくるぶしをしっかり守っている。で、この真ん中にありますのは足の甲だとか膝の部分を守るためにつけてるし、お店によってはついてないのもありますので、このスタイルとしては今いろいろあるかと思いますが、ただ大事なことはその人につける人の膝とくるぶしがちゃんと守られている竹のものをつけていただきたいということです。
You can see with this model of suneate that's being held up at the moment, there's a flap on the bottom which goes or protects the top of your foot, and there's also a kind of a knee protector at the top. Depending on where you buy your suneate, sometimes these extra protection is not actually included in the sune, but I recommend that you get a sune of this quality, which affords you protection on the top of your foot and your knee. And again, as I said, it must be the slats of black bamboo to offer protection.
よく試合中にこの竹が割れて、ここからこうテープを巻いたりしますが、やはり普段の稽古から稽古の前に点検し、終わった時に点検し、特に大会に出る時には自分の身を守る防具のすべてがちゃんとチェックできてないといけないと思います。
Sometimes you'll see people in shiai that maybe one of the slats on their suneate has broken, so they are backing it up with tape so that it doesn't fall apart. Well, these things happen, of course, but again, I must emphasize that you look after your borgu and your equipment after each training session that you have, and if it's broken, replace it so that when you go to a taikai, you don't have to look so unkempt. Remember, the purpose of the borgu is to protect you, so you must also look after it.
で、すね当てが終わりました。次、手ぬぐいをします。手ぬぐいはタオルではなくて手ぬぐいですね。綿でできています。
Okay.
ループがあるものではない。
Tenugui, they're made out of cotton. They're not towels.
で、つけるのを見てみてくださ
So
い。
please watch how they put on their tenugui.
自分の頭を守り、髪の毛をうまくまとめ、それから汗を流れるのを防ぐのが手ぬぐいの役目です。
So the tenugui, again, this is part of your protective equipment. It protects your head, protects it from chafing inside the man. It also keeps your hair out of the way, and it serves to absorb sweat, stopping sweat getting in your eyes as well.
で、次は綿になります。綿は綿金の上から2、4、6本目と7本目の間が幅が広いです。で、幅が広いでしょって言っても、そんなこと聞いたことありませんっていう子どもたちもよくいます。でも、ここから見るんです。ここら辺はみんな狭いので、この幅の広いところに目がこう行くようにして、ここを物見と言いますが、そこから見るようにします。
Between the 6th and 7th bar on the mangane is a section which is slightly wider in terms of the space between the bars. This is called the monomi. And when you put your man on, the monomi is the height which your eyes should be. Because the monomi being slightly wider offers you a clearer view, and that's the point of it. So when you put your man on, if you put it on properly, then your eyes should be directly in front of the wider space or the monomi.
で、綿紐は上からついているものと下からついているものがあります。で、ナギナタの場合は顔をこう半身にしているもので、できれば上からの方が首が動かしやすいし、 この顎のところの安定度がしっかりしているので、上からの方をお勧めしたいです。
With men, there are two ways of attaching the manhimo. Some men have the manhimo attached at the bottom, and some men have the manhimo attached at the top. With regards to naginata, I mean, you can use both, but I recommend that you use the method in which the manhimo are attached to the top. The reason for this is because naginata is conducted from a side-on stance, and by tying the man at the top, it gives you a little bit more flexibility of movement and freedom of movement.
で、中古の道具を使う方で、ここの、面だれのところがすごく皮がもう柔らかくなっているものを使っている成人、大人の方ですね、が、やはり疲れると、これがしっかりしてないと、私もその喉ごときが中に入ってしまって発熱したっていうのも聞いてますので、やはりここの面だれはしっかりしたものをちゃんとつけるようにしましょう。
Also, with the tsukidare, the throat protector down the bottom of the man, often you'll see the tsukidare that's sort of like all scrunched up or bent, okay, or a little bit soft through overuse. This is actually quite dangerous. In fact, personal experience, Kimura sensei said she received a thrust that went under her tsukidare and into the throat, and she got very sick because of it. So this can be quite dangerous. It's important that you have a very stable, rigid, and undamaged tsukidare to protect your throat.
で、面をつけた後ろを見ていただきたいんですが、ちょうど頭の真ん中に、丸く蝶になった部分と、垂れた紐の長さが同じになるようにしてください。
So, as you can see from behind, the manhimo is tied in the center of the head, and the himo that's left over is adjusted so that it's all the same length.
試合中に面の紐がこうほどけないようにしっかりつけてください。次は最後が小手です。で、ナイナタの場合は指が3本になっています。で、この小手っていうのは手で、ナイナタを握っていますので、一番汗でびちゃびちゃになりますし、それで悪くなったり破けたりするのところがこの小手です。だから、稽古の後にはこの手のひらの皮をこう伸ばして、キュッとこうなったまんまで乾かしてしまって、また伸びて乾かしてしまうとだんだん皮が、ダメになってしまうので、稽古の後にはいつもこう皮を伸ばしましょう。
Okay, so finally we put on the kote. Kote, as you know, is divided into three parts: the thumb, forefinger, and the rest. With the kote, after use, the tenouchi, or the leather in the palm, if it gets sweaty and wet, when it dries, it sort of goes hard, right? And then when you stretch it out again to use it, gradually the leather will get weak and start to rip. So in order to look after your kote and ensure that they last a long time, after training, when you finish using them, make sure that the tenouchi is stretched out while it's still wet and sweaty.
なるべく防具全部がそうですが、あんまり大きな穴が開いてから修理をすると修理代も大変ですので、こまめにチェックをしてそうならないようにすることと、もしくは、具合が悪いところができたら早めの修理をお勧めします。
So if you're finding, you should always check your equipment for any little holes or rips or tears that might be appearing. If you leave them, they'll get bigger and they'll become more expensive and harder to fix. So a stitch in time saves 9. Make sure you check your gear, and anything that needs fixing, fix it sooner rather than later.
で、全部つけたのがこういう格好になります。
And this is what you will look like when you have all of your equipment on properly.
一応これで、防具の説明、注意点、それから着用した姿っていうものをお見せいたしました。
Okay, so that's just a basic overview of how you should wear your equipment and look after it. And next one, 何ですか?
NEXT は一応これで基本は終わりますが、
はい。
まだ時間が少しあります。
はい。はいはい。はい。
質疑を。
わかりまし
はい。それとも防具打ちます？打たなくていい？
打たなくていい。
はい。
はい。
じゃあ、
じゃあ、質疑応答やりますか。
はい、
OK。よし。
なんか、スケッチが質問が出てくるので。
Well, that went very quickly. Today, that was pretty much all we were going to do in terms of practical side. Next time, as I said, it'll be focused very much on shikaki-oji, and the time after that it'll be kata. So Eric mentioned before that you'd like to ask some questions. He has some questions about Kihon that he'd like to ask. So we'd like to throw everything open now to anybody who has a question they'd like to ask. Please go ahead, and I'll do my best to translate for Kimura Sensei.
Thank you very much, Sensei. Thank you very much for your time. Arigatou gozaimashita. Alex, so my question on Kihon was basically general, or particularly for, just based on the kamai, haso no kamai, the bottom hand, the general guidelines for placement. Everyone's body is different, particularly Westerners have longer bodies. So what is the best guidelines for teaching placement of the kamai, or placement of the hand in that kamai?
構えの質問なんですけれども、発想の構えでね、この下の手、どこに置けばいいのかって、特に外国に行くとやっぱりね、大きい人もいっぱいいるし、体が、ね、ちょっと違う、体格に違うので、下の手をどこに置けばいいのかとか、それを教えるときに、そういう、なんていうかな、決まった、なんかやり方っていうのがありますでしょうかっていう質問です。
全日本のナギナタは身長が2メーター以上あっても、この2メーター20のこのナギナタを使うということになっていますので、今おっしゃるように、一応この下の手は腰骨、上の手は耳の高さになっているんですが、背が高ければ高いほどこの幅の長さが違ってきますよね。はい、だからそこですごく指導をなさりづらいというところはあるかもしれないんですが、はい、以前男子がたくさん入ってこられたときに、長いナギナタを作りますかっていうのを全日本に課題になったことがあるんですが、やはりその時に2メーター以上の方々からも、今のままで良いというお返事をいただいたもので、それだし競技によって長くすればコートも広くしないといけない、その不都合があるので、今この2メーター20、一番長くて25ですね、このナギナタを使って、皆さん稽古されていると思います。だから今おっしゃるように難しいというのは分かる。このちょうど日本人としてのいいサイズであれば、腰骨と耳の高さで先端巻きまでもぐらいちょうど残っていて、いいんですが、多分男子の方で手も長くてとなると、もっともっとその上の方、やっぱりこの門間さんと清水さんのが背が高いと、やはりあそこの残る部分が少ないですよね。だからこういうことになるけれど、それは一番私はこの収まった場所っていうのが多分その人にある。だからここが前腕の長さを残すというふうに言われていますが、少々そこが短くなっても仕方がないでしょうしとは思いますが。
That's a really good. That was Eric that asked that, right? Was that you, Eric?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and it's been a matter of a little bit of confusion in Japan as well, especially when guys started doing naginata. Obviously, they're on average they're taller, and so there was talk about maybe making naginata longer for men. But they decided not to because if you make the naginata longer, that also means you have to make the court size bigger, blah, 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 blah. But you raise a good point because depending on the length of, your body size, the naginata is going to look very different when you go into hasso no kamae. The rule of thumb, as you know, is the bottom hand rests on your hip bone and the top hand should be up by your face. But even with these two models that we have with us, Kiyomizu-san on your left, I think, is that right? On my left anyway, on my left, if I'm facing this way, is taller. And so you can see that compared to a shorter person, this is much different, right? So it sort of looks different. But since the length of the naginatas are defined and have to stay as they are, this is something that just can't be helped. So they do say, at least down the bottom, you should have 4 arms length between the grip and the ishizuki. And then you put your hand on your koshibone. Okay, and where the right hand or the top hand is, it's going to be different depending on the person. Okay, so that's all we can really do about it. So there's always going to be a difference, but it's not something you should worry about. Rule of thumb, sometimes you'll find that an even taller person will be holding it up here and we'll have to hold it even a little bit lower down here. Okay, so that means that the ishizuki part of the naginata is going to even look a little bit shorter. It can't be helped. But rule of thumb, okay, try and keep, well, if you can, the point of measuring the forearm down the bottom and on your hip. Does that answer your question, Eric? Or is it a little bit convoluted?
No, it is a convoluted issue. So thank you very much. And so I think it's just wanting to really focus on the guidelines for, as we teach this, how to best communicate the positioning.
Yeah, thanks for that, Eric.
Arigatou gozaimashita, sensei.
Anybody else would like to ask some questions?
Alex, this is Kurt. I have a question about Boru. Some people leave the men himo partially laced together so they can just slip the men on and pull the cords tight. Does Sensei recommend this?
防具の質問ですけれども、たまに見るんだけど、面紐を結んだまま置いといて、それですぐまたね、面つけれるようにするっていう。
下からのはできますよね。
ああ、そうですね。上からはできないんだよ。できる？
上からできない。
できないよね。
下からの人時々やる。
はい。それはどう思われますかっていう。
私は戦う前にそういうズボラはいけないと思う。
はい。All right. So people who tie their men from the bottom sometimes do that. I think it's probably not very practical, or you can't really do it if you tie your men himo from the top. But to answer your question, Kurt, no, it's not a good idea. It's quite what's the word? I'm trying to think of the appropriate translation. Rough or coarse. So best not to do that.
Thank you.
Dozo.
There's some questions in the chat, I believe.
Oh, really?
Alex.
Yeah, it's a question from Emily Cook about how to fold the hakama when putting on sune ate.
Ah, okay. ここに質問あります。
はい。
だからすね当てをつけるときにですね、この袴をね、どうやってそれを折ってすね当てを上からつけるか。
私たちは仕掛け王子も演技もするから、私はちゃんとこのひだをこうちゃんと折って、で持ち上げてすね当てつける。
ちょっと見にくいですね。
見にくい。
Hang on a sec, guys.
私は、袴が 次やっぱり演技競技とかがあるので、ひだが取れたら困るので、私はこうやってひだをきちっとして、膝下まで持ってって、で、すね当てを当ててつけます。
Okay, so what Sensei's doing, I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but it's often the case if you have shiai and then you might have shikake oji or, engi afterwards. So you want to make sure that your hakama is in good condition. What Sensei did, she straightens the pleats before she puts on her sunyata, and then she lifts her hakama up, keeping the pleats in place.
で、しっかりこう、ひだをこう広げてしまわないで。
So don't open it up. Keep the pleats nicely folded as you place the hakama. Lift it up just below the knee.
それで、すね当てをこう当てる。
And then place the suneate over the top without moving or letting go of the pleats. And that serves to kind of press them into place. So when you take your suneate off, they should be in good condition.
プレスしたみたいね。
So, like dry cleaning, press. Emily, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. MJ, can I follow on from Eric's question on hasso no kamae? Is it a similar situation for gedan for those who are taller? Should the backhand be in the same position regardless of body shape with less of the ishizuki at the top? さっきのエリックさんの質問と同じなんですけれども、下段の場合も同じこと言えるんでしょうかということですよね。で、そうなると、例えば背が高い人だったらですね、大体石突きはこれぐらい残してるじゃないですか、上で。場合によってはそれが短くなるということも。
そう、だからこの、多分、先端巻きに前の手が近くなっていくと思うんですね。
So probably in the case of gedan, rather than changing, sorry, I'm just going to move the screen. Rather than changing the distance between your top grip and the ishizuki, you'll find that the distance between your bottom grip and the sendan maki becomes closer. Is that FJ, is that all right? Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and there's Peter. I'd like question about specific detail for jogeburi and furikaeshi, specifically regarding the position of the rear hand at the end of the downswing. 上下振りと振り返しですよね。で、後ろの手の位置ですよね。
振り上がった時ね。
いや、振り下ろす時ですね。
振り下ろした時。
はい。
だから、振り下ろしたところ。左の前の手が、内もものところへ。
So the front hand, you can see, is sort of brought into the thigh.
で、その分、後ろの手が少し自分の体よりか後ろに。
Which means that the backhand is going to be slightly off the body.
もう一度振ってみてください。はい。多分ものすごくこう足開いて、ずっとこうする方があるから聞いてらっしゃるのかな。
Maybe you see some people that really sort of go really right up and right back like that. You don't need to do that at all, just as much as these ladies are doing it right now. Does that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah.
Peter, hello.
He responded by chat saying yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that.
Is it the same for furikaeshi? Is the follow-up.
それで振り返しもどうですかということですね。
振り り返しは上下振りよりか少し前にかかっていますね。
Right. So compared to jogeburi, furikaeshi is your body's going forward, whereas jogeburi, you're sort of pulling back. So the hand positions are going to be slightly different again. This is where you want the hands.
さっきは後ろまで引いて、もものとこって上下振りは。
This was jogeburi. Can you see Kiyomizu-san at the back? It's jogeburi. But with furikaeshi, the hands are in this position here. Okay, so there's a slight difference.
足さばきが違うので、
And that's because the footwork is also different.
で上下振り今度やってみて。上下振りは出して引いて。出して。さっきのは足を出したでしょ、振り返しは。
Right. So look at the footwork as well for furikaeshi. So it's very, very different. We're not stepping forward with this one. All right. So hopefully that answers that question. Eduardo, following Emily's question about suneate, please show the proper form of tying the suneate, considering cord going inside the plates or outside, tight the front of leg or tight the back. Okay. やっぱスネアテの、付け方というか結び方ですよね。
はい。
それがだからそのなんだ竹の上なのか下なのか、それで前で結ぶのか後ろで結ぶのかという質問ですね。
あなたつけてさ、スネアテしてください。つけた。
We're just getting a suneate.
スネアテって、業者って言っておかしいんだけど、お店によってこの紐がどこについてるかがあるんです。だから上の方についてたら竹のここになるでしょうし、この辺についてるところもあるんですね。そうするともうここしか仕方がないしっていうところはあります。それわかります？
はい。So first of all, with regarding to Eduardo's question, it very much depends on the kind of suneate that you have. There are many different models available depending on the shop that you buy them at. For example, these ones here, you can see that the himo are very much at the top, okay, and the bottom. But sometimes suneate, the himo, will be a little bit further down, which means that you have no choice but to tie over the top of the bamboo slats.
それで、この清水さんみたいなスネアテだったらもうこうつけるしかないわけでしょ。で、本当はこの竹を押さえたいんです。っていうのは、ここに空間ができて、ラインネタがここに挟まれることがあるので、それが危ない。本当はひっくり返るから。だから、本当はこの竹を押さえる、ここの位置で締めたいんだけれど、この紐がそこに、この足の格好とそれぞれによって違うので、そうなんです。
じゃあ、清水さん、ちょっと前に来てもらえますか。どうしようかな。
カメラで。
この上に。はい。Okay, so with Kiyomizu-san's suneate, her himo are very much at the top. So the only way that she can tie her himo is over the top of the bamboo, as in not over it, but at the top of the bamboo. Okay, but this is a problem actually because I don't know if you can see this very well, but the bamboo is exposed. You can see that, and so in shiai or something, keiko, often the naginata might get caught up in here, which can result in an injury or breakage. So ideally, we'd like to be able to put the himo over the top of the bamboo to sort of fasten it in tighter to avoid that kind of getting caught up with the naginata. But with the model of suneate that she has, that's unfortunately very difficult to do. それと前か後ろかってことですね。
これは紐の長さがまたその業者によって違うので、できればあんまり真ん前ならばこうちっちゃいこういう結び方、 ここで大きな蝶結びすると、またそこにナギナタが引っかかるので、
And again, whether you tie the cord at the front or at the back, that depends on your suneate, where you buy them, because sometimes the cords are very long and sometimes they're not so long. And sometimes you have really fat legs and sometimes you have really skinny legs. So it sort of depends. But so if they're long, then you take them around to the back. If they're not long enough to go around to the back, you would tie them in the front with a very small bow. You don't want to tie them with big loops for obvious reasons. So you can see here that Kiyomizu-san's suneate is tied with a very small, tight, compact bow at the front. So to answer your question, it really depends on the sune that you have. Is that okay, Eduardo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
だから
Thank you,
下
Kim.
も同じよ。
はい。
下もこの竹が
うん
ここにこれ挟まるので、下も同じね。
And I just talked about the top, but the bottom is exactly the same as well. So preferably, if you can, tie the bottom cords around the bamboo. But if you can't, then you can't. One more question here. 教えていただきたいのが、中段を合わせるときに、背が高い人と低い人を、どう合わせればいいのかということですね。So there's a question that when you go into chudan, if your partner is much taller than you or much shorter than you, how should you match up the naginatas when you go into chudan?
まあ、ちょっと背が違いますね。
Right.
はい
So you can see our two models are actually different height.
でも構えたら大体、相手延長線が相手のみぞおちのところになってると思うので、
But even though there's a slight difference in height, when they go into kamai, what they're doing is the extension of the kisaki goes to the mizouchi. Mizouchi is the solar plexus. Okay, so the soft bit under your rib cage. That's where it's pointing. So even if there's a difference in height between the two, the kisaki should be going to that spot, that target area, or pointing towards that you discussed.
いいですか、それで。わかった。
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. To clean the naginata after class during COVID-19, what should we use? Is rubbing alcohol okay? And the second question, for waki no kamae, is the rest of the backhand broken like for the front hand? How may we keep our naginata from shaking during waki? Okay, first question, is alcohol okay? 先生、コロナ禍で、そのなぎなたとね、終わってから拭いた方がいいって先生さっきおっしゃってましたけれども、それを何で拭けばいいんですかっていう質問です。
要するになぎなたの養生というか大事にする、今はコロナで、消毒でアルコールで拭いてますけど、普段であれば稽古の後に汗をちゃんと拭いて、椿油っていうのはないんですか、向こうに。
わからない。まあ
アマニ油は、
はい。まあ、あると思います。はい。
要するに、そういうのをちょっとつけると。
So at the moment, with regards to COVID, you want to sterilize your naginata or your equipment, especially if you're sharing it with other people. So alcohol. But when in other times, let's say it's not COVID, you should actually clean your naginata or wipe it down after training anyway. And in which case it doesn't need to be alcohol, but just wipe the sweat and all the gunk off it if there's anything on there. And if you can get some kind of light oil, I'm trying to think. So in New Zealand, cricket players put oil on their cricket bats. I suppose baseball players do as well, but just some kind of linseed oil or something like that, a film of covering, a film of linseed oil will help preserve the naginata, keep its shape, and keep it in good condition. So irrespective of COVID-19, it's a practice that you should include in your naginata practice anyway. But for COVID, alcohol, any other time to look after your naginata, wipe it, and perhaps something like linseed oil or some other kind of light oil. Says もう一つ脇の構えですね。後ろの手はどうなっているかということですね。We just look at the back hand for waki.
どうなる？幅と幅が同じですよね。
手首のことについて聞きたいと思うんですね。
後ろに。
だから前の手はちょっと曲がってるんですよね、その手首。
ちょっと。
で、後ろの手はどうなってるか。It's easier just to show you rather than try to explain it. But can you see the hands? The front hand and the back hand?
要するに中段の反対に向いてるような構えですね。ここまではいかないですね。
Does that answer your question? It's not really answering it. It's showing. Can you see the different? Can you see what the position the hands are in? And I'm not quite sure what you mean by how may we keep our naginata from shaking during waki. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. But we'll cover that in a minute, okay? I'll just move on for the meantime. It says it's tsuki no shitsumo. Does kisaki approach from left of the throat and cut towards the right? Huh? Okay, let's try.
繰り込んでつ。
そうですね。だからそういう、なんていうかな、方向は左から入って右に切るっていう。
繰り込んだときに歯が下向いてるんですよね。
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is going to answer your question, but when we do the kurikonde, when we pull it back, you can see that, okay, we pull it back straight like this. So the blade is not bent. And then when we thrust out, we're turning it anti-clockwise, I guess you could say. Well, it depends on which hand you're doing it with, but.
Yeah. No, looks good. Looks good. Thank you. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant.
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Okay,
thank you.
Can you show the kneeling bow with the naginata? How the feet are when kneeling, and how the naginata is put aside and back to shizentai. そしたらですね、座礼ですね。座礼とその足の位置、それとnaginataを横に置いて、それを座礼しますよね。それで立ち上げるときに、自然体に戻るときはまあ、そういう、なんていうかな、やり方ですよね。
ちょっとここのところ、コロナでみんな座礼はしてないんですけど。
ああ、そうか。
そうなんです。はい。
Okay. でも、やりますよね。Right. Actually, it's interesting, zare, or the seated bow, because of Corona, in Japan, in Kendo and in Naginata, nobody's doing zare at the moment. Don't ask me why. But in any case, we'll just show you how to do it here. まず自然体から座って座礼してまた立つということですね。So what I've asked the models just to sit down, to put the naginata to the side. Right. で、その立つときは右から立つのか左？さざ浮きですか？はい。Okay, so when you stand up, you're standing up from the right foot. When you sit down, you're sitting down from the left foot, which is saza uki. Okay, saza means to sit down from the left, uki, stand up from the right. Do you want them to do it one more time?
Yes, please. And
Okay.
the feet must go a little back, or you just stay on the same place and you.
足ちょっと引くんですか、それとも同じ位置ですか？
立つですか？同じ位置。
Same position. Same spot.
はい。Thanks.
Okay. じゃあもう一回お願いできますか？ Okay. So hopefully that's clear.
If you are without the Naginata, how is the kneeling position? How it's changed? Without the Naginata.
じゃあ、ナギナと持っていない時の座り方は変わるんですかっていうこと。
もし
だから
同じですね。
同じです。
ただこう置いてない、取らないだけの話で、このまんま座って、サザ浮きで。
うん。でも日本ナギナタってサザ浮きってことはしないでしょ。
そのまんま座って、
こうですよね。
はい。
うん。どっちかというと。だから多分それが見たいと思います。
見たい。
うん。
でも持たない。
Okay, and without the Naginata?
うん。
遅いな。どっちですか？
多分
So, let's.
ああ。そのままです。
うん。
じゃなくて、やっぱ引く。
何もなかった。
So it's difficult to see, but I remember actually being taught many years ago that your feet stay where they are. Your feet stay where they are, and you go down like this, right? But apparently, Naginata now you're taught the same as Kendo, saza. So you pull the left foot back first, and then you sit down. Okay, so you're pulling your left foot back a little bit. In other words, you're not doing this. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Ben Sensei. Thank you, Kimura Sensei.
No problema. Okay, are there any other questions? We've got time for one more.
Me, for Furikon ankle ski, I have long arm. So if I do like we used to have 90 degrees, then I touch the kensemaki. So if it's better not to touch, I guess, and not to go so high, I guess is the way, but I want confirmation.
Oh, that's for kurikonde tsuki.
Yeah, because it's too long, so I touch, or I don't go so high. So what is most important?
Okay.
To respect. Thank you.
はですね、振り込んでつきで腕がすごく長いそうです。となると、先端巻き触ってしまうんですよね。
わかります。
で、それはどうしたらいいのかということです。
だからその前の手をそんなビーッと伸ばさないで、少しこう寄せられた。
だから要は先端巻きを触らないことが、
先端巻きが歯を触るってことになってしまうので、それは良くないから、だからこう上げてるんですよね。そうです。
なるほど。Okay, so really you don't want to touch the sendan maki at all. So, excuse me for a second. My phone is going off. So rather than pulling right back, you can pull it up a little bit higher, but not so far back this way. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
But then, oops.
Okay, so
rather
I don't,
than pulling, then my arm won't be straight.
Yeah, course.
So? That's new.
Do you see what I'm doing?
Yeah, but then it's not straight.
You mean like this? だからね、こうまっすぐじゃないとあかんちゃうかっていう。こうするとまっすぐじゃないんですよ。
でもこうなってしまうんですね。
はい。
で、歯を触ってしまったりするから、だから少しこう、上上げ気味に引いたらいけませんかね。
You might have to get plastic surgery to shorten your arms. But
It's
yeah,
useful for.
it's a
Okay.
difficult one. It's a difficult one because you want to have a straight arm, but obviously if you do that, it's going to touch here. So we don't want that. So you sort of have to find a halfway between the two. Okay. But from what I'm getting from Kimura Sensei, it's really bad to touch the sendai maki.
Yeah, that's for sure, for sure.
So as long as you can just work, it doesn't necessarily have to be straight. Okay, but just you have to make an adjustment so that you can get the right swing, but not touching the sendai maki. So that's something that you will have to just adapt to your own body.
So that's what I'm doing. So the compromise is in the straight of the arm, not on the high, how high I have to go. Okay, I was going not so high and keeping. So better to go high, but not straight arm.
That's the advice I've just got here.
Okay, I try.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
Fire away.
I got a question about the positioning of the feet. I've seen several examples and I don't know how you have to aim them. I've seen people with the front foot aiming forwards and the back foot aiming perpendicular, aiming sideways. And I've seen with the front feet slightly diagonal and the back feet slightly diagonal to the back.
Yeah. So you're talking about from Chudan, right?
Yes.
Okay. 今、中段の足の質問ですけれども、なんかいろいろまっすぐ前の人もいますし、
ちょっと中に。
ちょっとね、こういう影足じゃないけど、なってる人も、右も左もですね、どっちが正しいですかということです。
やはり股関節の柔らかさ、硬さもあるもので、本当にまっすぐ向くっていうことは、やっぱり万人向きの話ではないですよね。だから私は、これも私の場合はなかったんですけど、でもつま先がしっかり相手の方に向いてる。
Okay. So again, this is a sort of a kind of a grayish sort of area. You don't, I'll just maybe demonstrate like this. You're sometimes told to do this, but actually practically speaking, it's incredibly difficult to have your foot in this position facing directly to the front and directly to the side. So it's more natural just to have a little bit of an angle there. And Kimura Sensei herself is a little bit more of an angle like this. But just as long as your feet are not like this, okay, we want to have your front foot. It's your front foot is your seme foot. That's where you're putting the pressure. So if it's in the side like this, it's pretty much dead. As long as it's basically pointing in the direction of your opponent, then that's okay. But if you don't try and keep it straight, then gradually it'll probably go like this and you won't realize it. So that's why I think people are taught to keep it straight so that actually in all practical senses, it sort of comes in a little bit anyway. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and related to that, the back foot is also aiming slightly forwards.
後ろの足も
slightly backwards.
真横じゃなくてちょっと前ですかね。
まあできるだけ後ろの足はだってこう向いた時の足だから抜きやすいし。
So your back foot, sorry, your back foot should be straight out to the side because you're standing side on. Okay, so your front foot is maybe a little bit turned in, but your back foot should be pretty much straight out to the side, not facing upwards like this, not facing up like that. Okay, it should be out here like that. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay,
そ
cool.
れで、なぎなたはこの内ももを鍛えていかないと足がこう開かないので、なるべくこう四股踏みをしたりして、ここの内ももの筋肉を鍛えていきましょう。
Right. Kimura Sensei is making a comment that what's really crucial in our Naginata movement is our inside thigh. Okay, so not up to have a little bit of spring there, and really our movement and our power is generated from our inside thigh. So please, well, the advice was make sure that you strengthen your thighs, okay, or your inside thigh. I don't know what it's actually called. Uchimomo. Got time for one more question. I'm a bit worried about the battery on my laptop, but anyway, this will be the last one. When doing uchikaeshi, oji side, from one uke to the next, does the naginata touch the body the whole time or detaches from your body? はいはい。してないんだけれども、さっきの打突のことだと思うんですね。受けるときのこと言ってるのかな？受けてそれはやっぱりなぎなたは体から離れないんでしょうかっていうことですよね。はい。元立ちの方ですよね。Okay, so I think just by watching that you can understand that no, the naginata does not leave the body. That's Eduardo, right?
Yes, but it seemed to leave the body a bit because you are like, you're doing one, it's touching your body, and then when you go back, stepping back, it detaches your body for a second, and then it touches your body again. It looked like that for me. But just a bit.
So is that clearer?
Yes, I think it stays on the body on some of the defense.
It's supposed to stay on the body as much as possible.
Okay. Thank you, Ben.
Okay. And thank you, the adductors. Beautiful. I learned something new today. All right. じゃあ先生これで終わりにしましょう。玉木さんも。いや、みんな会いたいんで。先生。Okay, guys. We're going to stop here. Hopefully it was useful for you guys. It's the first time we've done this with Naginata. You can see we're in a beautiful location for it. Like I said, the next time we do this is going to be on the 11th of October at 1 o'clock Japan time. Okay, and I'll put the information up on Facebook again. But the next one, we're going to really hone in on Shikake Oji. So it'll be a lot more intensive and longer than what we did today. And then again on the 15th of November from 10 a.m. 1 o'clock, sorry, 1 o'clock, again the same time. On the 15th of November, we're going to dedicate a couple of hours to Zen Nihon, kata. Okay, so really hope to see you there. Please drop me a line if you've got any feedback or anything you'd like included or whatever, or anything that we can improve on. And on that note, I'll just ask Kimura Sensei to say one final word.
みんなよく見ていただいて、またわからないことがあったらクエスチョンをください。
Okay, so thank you for coming. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask us and we'll try and deal with that the next session that we have. Okay, right. And those of you would know, of course, Tamaki Sensei, who's been here since early morning, behind the scenes. I've managed to drag her out in front of you all because I know you want to see her as well. And also thank you to our two ladies who helped us with the models today. Thank you very much. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. It's great to see you all. Please take care of yourselves. And look forward to seeing you in a few weeks, yeah?
Thank you very, very much.
See ya.
Thank you
very much. ありがとうございました。
はい。またね。ありがとうございました。
ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。